In early 2022, the actress Awkafina posted a statement after years of being accused of cultural appropriation. The statement pleased everyone. End of video. Sorry, wrong universe. People hated it, especially the ones who didn't read it. In particular, Awkafina has been accused of using a black scent, which is a stereotypical black style of talk done by non-black people.
This bitch was up in my face. I was like, look, booger bitch. Just get your ghetto ass up on my face.
So did Awkafina culturally appropriate? Let's investigate. Some people say she was doing a black scent in her early hip-hop videos, but it's just rapping.
It's time that we let the world know. Bitch, your vag look like Janet Reno. Flip a stereotype, how an Asian bitch got concubines.
There are plenty of respected white rappers who've done a version of the black voice. Why are these comedy videos so problematic? She's not even making fun of hip-hop. She's making fun of herself. The gag is, I'm a dork trying to pretend I'm not a dork. Lots of people have done this joke.
Everybody look at me 'cause I'm sailing on a boat.
Some say she used to publicly speak in a black scent until she did a classy movie, then she ditched it. That could be bad if it happened, but, it didn't.
I'm from Forest Hills, Queens, being an Asian woman in hip-hop.
I remember being very moved by comedy at a very young age.
So another swing and a miss here. This really seems to be about just two moments. Awkafina arguably does a black scent in one scene in a movie people forgot as soon as the credits rolled, Ocean's 8.
Follow the queen, live your dream, but don't sleep. Don't sleep, because she might disappear, saw that?
But to me, this seems decently specific. It's not how black people talk, it's how fast-talking street hustlers talk. And she only speaks like this in this scene while hustling and doesn't do it in the rest of the movie.
I was wondering if I can get a Metro card, because I'm scared.
And Awkafina definitely does a black scent for about 5 seconds in the movie Crazy Rich Asians.
You're not a chicken. You gonna roll up to that wedding, you gonna be like, bok bok, bitch.
Bok bok, bitch.
She does not do a black scent in the rest of the movie.
It's not about getting Eleanor to like you. It's about getting her
I'm guessing the people who were most excited about this did not watch the whole movie, which I'll admit, that's smart. And I would agree that this moment is a misfire and probably regrettable, but that's comedy. Everybody throws up some bricks.
Pointer, side of the backboard.
These two moments don't seem that representative of what Awkafina has done overall. And much more importantly, I think she has done this black style of voice because she's influenced by black culture and loves it. This campaign against Awkafina seems like punching down. It seems like bullying. A single, quirky, moderately successful actress is no threat to the behemoth that is black pop culture. And this is a weird kind of justice, where in the name of racial enlightenment, people are trying to cancel one of the only Asian actresses you've heard of. It really feels like the idea of cultural appropriation is straining to find worthy enemies. It feels like at this point it's devouring itself. Cultural appropriation is not a bad idea. It's an idea that has done what it needed to do, and it is now time for it to leave. It is time to bid farewell to cultural appropriation. Hi there, middle-aged white man here. I'm going to talk about cultural appropriation and, I don't know, I just think it's gonna go super. It's a beautiful day on Amity Island Beach. The water is warm and calm and sharkless, and I am gonna jump right in. Cultural appropriation, why me? My turf over the last decade plus has been who owns ideas and culture. I've thought a lot about this topic, and I think I have earth-shattering insights that will alter the course of history. Also, nobody else is saying this, so I guess I'm the guy. What is cultural appropriation? Cultural appropriation is the inappropriate or unacknowledged copying of one culture or identity by members of another culture or identity, typically a dominant one. Emmanuel Lacho puts it this way: it's doing none of the work yourself and taking as much of the credit as the world will give you. It's not knowing or caring what kind of struggle went into someone else's creation, but using it to get yourself a passing grade or a few thousand Instagram likes. Okay, what does this look like? Let's get the absolute worst out of the way first. Forgive me, this next short bit is offensive. The most horrible historic example of cultural appropriation is blackface. This is the most stark example, and everybody would agree that no human being should ever be doing this. But thankfully, it seems like the era of blackface is in the past, and to be caught doing it is a mega catastrophe. Blackface is the really hideous one, and it's in a category of its own. But most of the recent examples of cultural appropriation are not so serious, not so stark, and range from clearly wrong to completely ridiculous. Let's take a little time here to look at a bunch of examples. We'll start with the bad, and then things are gonna pretty quickly lighten up. Rachel Dolezal is the meme shorthand for cultural appropriation. She's a white woman who identifies as black and was pretending to be black. Somewhere in America, there's a tanning salon owner who loves this lady. Dolezal has become symbolic of the strange, vampiric relationship between white liberal culture and black culture. Some sports teams changed their names in recent years, and this seems good. Teams shouldn't be using racial imagery as mascots. Hey Atlanta, just pick a frickin' animal and go with it. Some black music fans claim K-pop does a lot of cultural appropriation. I don't know much about K-pop, but I don't think you need to in order to see that it is frequently very derivative of black culture, and I would say predictably clumsy. I mean, what are we looking at right now? I believe the hype on this, and if K-pop fans want to educate us all, the comments are there. I'm now going to talk about blackfishing, black scent, and white people dancing like black people. Breathe, everybody. Calm down. I'm not going to do anything crazy. Lots of claims of cultural appropriation are about black style, vernacular, and dance, all of which are enormously influential. There's blackfishing, where celebrities and pop stars, mostly women, adopt a style that makes them appear blackish. There's black scent, as we saw with Awkafina. For some reason, gay white men do this a lot.
I just want y'all to know I be catfishing on hoes.
And dances from black creators are often copied without attribution by white influencers. People claimed Addison Rae did this on The Tonight Show, but they really should blame the producers of the show. Black creators did a kind of strike about this issue. Many black people say these styles receive adulation when done by white people, but discrimination when done by blacks, and that white people use these styles to get clout and then chuck them after that. Now, I'm not dumb enough to wade into these particular waters, but I would like to offer some context and some caution. These are all issues that arise from the incredible and unprecedented success of African American culture, which is hugely influential worldwide. And this influence has inspired all sorts of different artists to do their own thing with these ideas. You can even hear inspiration from hip-hop in indie rock. But the influence of black culture also creates a lot of imitation. Influence and imitation are linked. They are bound together like potato salad and raisins. I believe if you suppress the imitation, you can also suppress the influence. Too much shaming over appropriation could literally make black artists poorer. That's all I gotta say. Let that marinate, and on we go. Similar to blackfishing, there is also Asian fishing, which is when non-Asian people use eye makeup, wardrobe, and affect to appear Asian, often doing a submissive, childlike stereotype. There are good points here.
Racially ambiguous facial features are in right now, but white people still come out on top because they can take off those racially ambiguous facial features at the end of the day, while we can't.
But I will repeat, this happens because Asian culture is very popular. That is what's driving it. People like this stuff.
So guys, I did bow derrick braids.
The Kardashian-Jenner clan have repeatedly stepped in the cultural appropriation poo-poo over hair a few times, over Japanese culture, over Indian culture, over blackfishing, and over using Black Lives Matter imagery to sell sugar water. Fashion is a common realm for appropriation controversies. Halloween parties in particular have proven an excellent opportunity to permanently humiliate yourself. In high fashion, Gucci put Sikh turbans on white models. Marc Jacobs and Comme des Garçons did shows with white models in dreadlocks. Whether white people should even wear dreadlocks is an ongoing debate, and I'd like to resolve it right now. Black people, they're all yours. Enjoy. There have been a few whitewashing controversies. This is when white actors are cast as non-white characters. Not good, but seems like there's way more of the opposite of this. And pop divas like Miley Cyrus, Nicki Minaj, Gwen Stefani, Selena Gomez, Beyonce, and Katy Perry have all been accused of appropriating. Avril Lavigne was accused of appropriation, I guess because she likes Japanese stuff, I think? You may have noticed that these examples are getting a tad trivial at this point, and it gets worse. Here is an actual story in the Washington Post about Jamie Oliver's punchy jerk rice and how, I don't know, it's impossible to care about this. Some video game reviewers claimed the game Horizon Forbidden West appropriates Native American culture. Do any actual Native American people care? If so, please comment below. Adele caused a weirdly large stir by celebrating a Jamaican event in Jamaican attire, including what are called Bantu knots. Seems like she's just joining in a local celebration. Who cares? Billie Eilish has been accused of appropriation for her look. To me, this is a very clear example of being influenced by a culture and doing your own thing with it. It's not derivative, it's hers. This young woman liked this Asian dress, wore it to prom, and felt the internet's wrath. She was a teenager, it's her prom. This is cruel behavior. Olivia Rodrigo, who was also a teenager, was accused of appropriating Black vernacular.
I be tripping.
But how are young people supposed to know the difference between Black culture and pop culture? Pop culture is Black culture. We are scraping the bottom of the barrel at this point, but looking back at most of this list, I'll just say it. I don't think there are many grave sins here. There are certainly some bad decisions, but they are either forgivable or they're just not that big a deal. What I see in most of these examples, but not all, is affection. Even if it's sometimes shallow or clumsy, I see people copying stuff because they like it. And at the end of the day, it seems like that should be our bottom line. Most of the cases I've mentioned thus far are about style of some sort, so these are kind of fleeting expressions. But the more interesting cases are when there is a deeper and more committed effort to communicate something. American Dirt is a novel by a white woman about Mexican migrants. I've not read this book and you can't make me. It was popular, the author sold it for 7 figures, it was an Oprah pick, and then everything exploded into a huge cultural appropriation scandal. One of the main criticisms was that a book by a Latino author should have gotten this much support from the publishing industry.
The publishing industry does not have the same attitude with our immigrant stories as they did with your story.
But did any of these authors write a trashy thriller that moms will buy at the airport? The book is a pulpy page-turner that got the story of migrants to a mainstream audience. Author Sandra Cisneros said, "It's going to change the minds that perhaps I can't change." Eminem has been accused of cultural appropriation because of his popularity. Rap is a Black creation, and yet Eminem is the best-selling artist. But I will point out, he's also the only white person in these ranks. And like Billie Eilish, he was doing his own thing. Seems like this is how it's done.
Stop the tape!
But the biggest and most important celebrity accused of cultural appropriation remains Elvis Presley. And I want to dig into this a bit because this story shows us the surprising benefits of what could be called cultural appropriation, and it shows us how hard it is to untangle Black and white music.
You ain't nothing but...
Elvis Presley was the first giant rock and roll star and one of the biggest celebrities of the 20th century.
You ain't nothing but
But Elvis Presley is widely considered the white guy who stole Black music, rock and roll, and got all the credit. After all, he is the king of rock and roll. There is truth to this. Elvis got really rich and famous by performing a Black style of music.
Ready, set, go, and go.
I got a gal that I love, so I'm ready.
But he wasn't just copying Black music. He was doing his version of it. He was doing Black music with a white music feel, a country music feel. As for the King of Rock and Roll thing, this is not some official title. And if we want to declare a new king, we don't need a revolution, we can just do it. I would nominate Chuck Berry. But Chuck Berry, like Elvis, played music that was both Black and white, but flipped. Elvis played Black music with a white music flair. Chuck Berry played white music with a Black music flair.
We were playing just standard blues and whatever, and Chuck couldn't, he wasn't interested in that too much, because he had his own style that he was interested in, which was country and western or hillbilly, whatever you want to call it.
Chuck Berry's first song, Maybelline, started out as a cover of this.
Light the fire, find the great clock on the mantel says it's getting late. The curtains on the window, snowy white. The parlor is pleasant.
People listening on the radio thought Elvis was black and Chuck Berry was white.
When they would call Chuck Berry out, there would be a lot of, ooh, ah, you know, like, this ain't supposed to be a black man, it's supposed to be a white man singing this kind of song, you know.
So Chuck Berry, a black man, is, I think, the actual king of rock and roll, but he played music that was actually pretty white. American music is hybrid music. The author Ralph Ellison put it this way: in this country, things are always all shook up, so that people are constantly moving around and rubbing off on one another culturally. There are no purebreds in the kennel of American culture. It's all mutts. We tend to think in what's called zero sum. If I win, you lose. If you get more of the pie, that means I get less. But this is not true in culture. When a culture grows, the pie gets bigger for everybody. So even if you have a smaller slice, it's worth much, much, much more. Elvis Presley indisputably made the pie bigger, even though he also took the biggest slice. Little Richard said he was an integrator. Elvis was a blessing. They wouldn't let black music through. He opened the door for black music. Integrators can enrich artists from other cultures by helping them cross over. But far more importantly, integrators bring people together. Hardcore racists in the 1950s despised Elvis Presley because they knew he was integrative. They knew he undermined belief in segregation.
Well, since my baby left me.
I don't think Elvis was trying to integrate. He just played music that he emotionally connected with, and that's it. And that's what's so cool. When you connect with the humanity of another culture and do your version of it, you show others how to connect. And integrators don't have to be from the dominant culture. Fast forward 30 years, and Michael Jackson was the next major integrator. He merged black music with rock and musicals and horror movies and mainstream American pop. He crossed over black music to the mainstream and became the only pop star to equal Elvis's fame.
Yeah. Flip a stereotype, how an Asian bitch got concubines.
Fast forward another 30 years, and Awkafina, in her own smaller way, is an integrator too. She was crossing over her Asian American experience to a broad audience through the popular form of hip-hop. Asian Americans have just recently become a real presence in pop culture. People like Ken Jeong and Awkafina and Randall Park and Ali Wong and Sandra Oh and Jimmy Yang are all connecting to wide audiences by doing American pop culture with a twist. Now, some people watching, I'm sure at this point, are saying, no, we have a way to do all this.
That's not cultural appropriation, that's cultural appreciation.
But this idea, to me, is way too passive. It says, look but don't touch, consume but don't create. It sucks the life out of creativity by making it too polite. There is an element of exploitation to all creativity. To appropriate is to take without permission. That's creativity. You don't ask others if you could do it, you just do it. Who would you ask anyway? It's okay to take if you do it the right way. More on that later. Arguments over cultural appropriation seem to naturally gravitate towards petty squabbling, because who owns what and who is entitled to copy from whom is a mind-boggling labyrinth. And for anyone who thinks you'll always be the good guy in these battles, you won't. The author, Kosako Jackson, was really into accusing others of cultural appropriation, then wrote a fictional book, then canceled its publication because, cultural appropriation. This war will never end, it will forever be all against all, and sooner or later, you're next. So that's all bad, but there's a much worse possibility. I fear the message that regular people receive, people who don't nerd out on this stuff, people who have other things to do, this is basically everybody in the world. I fear the message that they receive is just stick to your own, it's the safest. What is the lesson from Awkafina? Firstly, steer clear of black vernacular if you're not black. Secondly, steer clear of any vernacular that's not yours. What is the lesson from American Dirt? Don't tell stories about Mexican migrants if you're not one, and don't tell stories about any tribe if you're not a member. It must be said, there is a segregationist aspect to the concept of cultural appropriation. What you can or can't do is determined by what group you are in. Obviously, at some point, this idea can go too far. Welcome to Too Far. I am not saying that the boundaries that separate cultures should be ignored. They deserve respect, but not too much. And anybody who cares enough to trespass should do it. The cultural appropriation debates have taught us a few valuable lessons. In particular, there are 3 things we all should do. Number 1, always credit. This is just good behavior generally. Number 2, be extra careful when your intent is primarily commercial or attention-seeking. If the top goal is to make money or get views, you will be held to a higher standard because you are potentially capitalizing on another community. Companies should be held to the highest standard of all. Number 3, if you love it, it's not appropriation. This is the big one. If you love what you copy, you will respect it, and people will feel that respect coming through. If you get everything else wrong, this one can save you. I believe Awkafina gets this right, and it's the reason this stain on her career should hopefully fade away. To find out more about the importance of copying and how to do it right, watch my series, Everything is a Remix. Let me close with a quick story. Another thing people say about Elvis is that he ripped off the song Hound Dog from Big Mama Thornton.
You ain't nothing but a hound. You ain't nothing but a...
But again, things are not what they appear. This song is actually not hers. Hound Dog was written by 2 Jewish guys from LA who were doing their own unique take on black music. Lieber and Stoller collaborated with all kinds of artists. One of them was Ben E. King, and in one of the songs they wrote together, you can see the full range of cultural influences that merge into a song. The melody is King's, but it's inspired by an old gospel song. The chord progression dates back to 17th century Europe. The arrangement is American pop, there's Latin American percussion, there's a lyric from a Bible verse, the string arrangement is classical, Lieber and Stoller wrote the distinct bass line, and King sings it in a mixture of gospel and pop. Black, white, North American, South American, European, gospel, pop, and scripture all play their part. The naive dream of earlier generations was harmony, and it's still the best dream.
When the night has come and the land is dark and the moon is the only light we'll see,